Hello, everyone. Hey, come in, grab a seat. Hello, I'm Jon Torrens. I teach confident communication, and this is confident pitching, the cheat codes. I'm aware I look very slightly like Walter White and Kane from Command & Conquer Red Alert. So don't worry if you're trying to place that face. Also, Lenin is a popular one as well. Anyway, so we have 45 minutes together. I'm going to talk to you for about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A for 5 minutes. And when I call this cheat codes, it's sort of shortcuts and things that I've learned. But when it comes to pitching, it's because I think it's not just pitching a game, it's pitching any idea. It's talking to other people and trying to persuade them that what you're talking about is important and worth investing their time into. And when I went through this material, I realized that there was a very important equation that came up, which is that you need knowledge and preparation to get confidence. And this is because, guess what? You have to know what you're talking about. Apparently, that's a big deal. That really helps. But even if you're pitching your idea, you might need to know every aspect of that game and be able to answer questions about every aspect of it. That knowledge, the impact of that is multiplied by doing your preparation. So I coach people one-to-one and in groups. I help them with speaking skills, and preparation is the stage that people miss out. So much like a personal trainer, I'm going to remind you of something that's pretty obvious. You have to put in the work. It will help so much if you know your stuff and then you actually put in the prep. So what am I going to talk about? Well, 6 things. You can read. I'm not going to read them out to you. First 2 are basically what you say. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are how you say it. And these sections are of varying durations. So section 1 is about 15 minutes. Section 5 is about 2 minutes. It doesn't matter. But at any point in the talk, there'll be a number at the side that's letting you know precisely where we are. There is also a bonus section as well. You're so lucky, which is all about me, because I should probably introduce myself properly. So let's do that. Oh, yeah. So when I had some photos done, and various photos of me being wonderful, being confident, speaking. And then they said, can you just imagine you're watching someone giving a talk and you really hate it? So that's me at maximum, like if you see that, that's danger. That's maximum lividity, if you will. I'm furious there. But my background is I wasn't particularly good academically at school. I liked art. I liked writing stories. Art was going to be my thing. I got into video editing, left college with a graphic design qualification. A friend of mine got a job at a video games company and said, hey, why don't you come and work with me here? So I got a job there and became a level designer. As soon as I'd started there, and this is a very long time ago, I also fell in love with stand-up comedy, and I started doing that as well. So the clever thing that I've done is to bring the lessons from stand-up comedy over to business. And one of the key things you should know about me is I consider myself to be someone who slaps the microphone unprofessionally and to be an introvert. I think I'm mostly introverted, and that might seem peculiar. I think most people here are probably people who would count themselves as being introverted. And I mention that because I don't want you to ever think that being introverted is somehow a barrier to being a good communicator. I think people who are most introverts can be just as interesting, if not more so, than those newfangled extroverts and their improvisation. I also love a good story, and I think that good stories have been at the heart of all good communication, and all the things that I love in movies and books have always had brilliant stories there. And stand-up comedy, after all, is essentially storytelling. Very short storytelling, but storytelling nonetheless. And I like to think of my role within the world now, in video games terms, is like basically a support class. So in Killzone 3, I was very much a medic. That was my thing. So I like helping people. I like to have adventures. And I like to help other people develop and so on. So let's get straight into the stuff. So how to create, this is me with Eric, Walter, and Joe, great guys. Just thought I'd throw that in as well. I was supposed to look terrified in this one, but I couldn't stop laughing. Anyway, that's another thing. So the stuff, how to create the material then. the very first thing that I think is really important is to understand why you are going to be pitching, why you're going to be speaking to people in the first place. And so I like to, and this is me looking very thoughtful and intelligent. Warning, there's a lot of photos of me in this. Sorry, I'm a recovering narcissist. So the first thing is, what's the point? Now, that doesn't mean, why bother? What I mean is, what's the point of the meeting? What's the point of the pitch? What's the objective that you're trying to achieve? Are you trying to get investment? Are you trying to just persuade them that you're wonderful? What is it that you're there to achieve? And I think that's really important when you're creating your talk. The second thing is to consider who you're talking to. And there are various things you could find out about them. So I find that people will put on LinkedIn, put profiles going back decades, and you can find out really, really interesting stuff. So research them, excuse me, find out what it is that they know, what's their level of expertise. Do they know anything about games at all? Are they perhaps a specialist in the type of game that you're pitching? And balance that there. What do they want is the key. Like, what's the pain point? What is the thing that you are going to solve for them by pitching this idea? So find out everything you can about them, and find out, you can find out little things like little things that annoy them. For example, you might have particular words that they like. So for example, the word sustainability may get them all excited, and you throw that in and they think, brilliant, we have to invest in this. On the other hand, it may make them absolutely furious and they never want to hear that word again. But whoever has arranged the meeting, you can find out that information. You can also ask them during that, what is the thing that really makes you tick and you want to get out of it? And I think finding the format out is really important as well. So you don't want to get into that pitch situation and find out that even though you've brought this amazing 45-minute thing, you've only got 10 minutes, or vice versa. Being surprised like that can be a pretty unpleasant experience. So doing the homework, making sure that you know exactly what's going on is really, really important. Now, I've got a technique for writing that I'm really pleased with. I think I've invented it, so clearly that's the case. And I've developed this from mainly from doing stand-up, but also from doing a lot of presentations. And the sketch method principle is you write down all the key points for the talk or pitch that you're giving. And you write them down as headings, and you put them onto separate pieces of paper. Now, the difference between this and a spider diagram or a mind map is that you can experiment with the structure, which is really important. So you might have some killer piece of information that you want to get across. You might have some amazing story, but and you've saved that to the end, but then you realize, actually, to make this work, bring it to the front. You experiment with it. Change it around. And the key point here is that you are experimenting with the structure before you have developed any kind of emotional attachment to it. So later on, if you discover that the structure is no good, you're not throwing away loads of work. You're experimenting with it, changing it around before you get to that point. And at the same time, I recommend saying the words out loud with what I call speak to write. Quick direct question for you. What benefit do you suppose there is from saying the words out loud and doing a quick run through? Straight away, that was amazing, very fast. Yes, straight away, it's a fantastic way of embedding the information, which is great. What are the other benefits? There's loads more. Yes, so it's what I find amazing, and I will bang on about rehearsal a lot, is that people will create a talk and they'll go through it in their heads and go, right, I've got this. And then on the day itself, it is a disaster because that's the first time they've actually said it out loud. It's amazing how certain words you can stumble over, and it's only when you say it out loud that you realize that the words clinical, whatever, research, get in the way. So it's cutting out those words. So there are loads of other benefits, things like finding out how long it takes, and also that, are any of you familiar with the phrase rubber duck engineering? Right, so if you're not, it's a very simple process, a very simple principle, that when you articulate a problem verbally, the solution often bubbles up because it was already there, because you're a genius and you know your stuff, but you had to say it out loud to get that problem get that solution, and the rubber duck is the inanimate object. So by saying the words out loud at this very early stage, when you've just got a few headings there, you get an idea of, okay, this works. You get an idea of the flow. You can start developing some links between sections. But crucially, you don't mind throwing a bit away. So when you realize, okay, these two sections, they duplicate. I'm repeating myself. I don't need to do that. You can consolidate those, throw stuff away. And the really clever bit, I think, is that once you've done that, and you could do that whole process in half an hour, you've got something that is then ready to have time invested in it and have each section populated, and maybe you start creating visuals, but you don't get to that point where you make you might make one slide and go, brilliant, I'll make another one, and then realize way further down the line, this is rubbish and that slide needs to go, even though I spent ages on it. So it lets you experiment with it and get it really fluid. And I think that's really important. And just saying the words out loud will really help you. This is something else that I will probably mention more than once. Simplicity wins every time. Emails, phone calls, meetings, no one ever said, oh, I wish that presentation had gone on a bit longer, right? It's just, please, just keep it short. Unless it's mine, obviously. Oh, get out of here. So you want to simplify whenever possible. Now, of course, that can be tricky because you don't want to miss anything out. And it can be really hard when you've got all that material down and you think, well, I don't want to miss anything out. Therefore, I've got a brilliant solution. I will include everything. And then you create this avalanche of information, which is too much for people to take in. Far better, I think, to have something that feels counterintuitively short, but then leads to questions afterwards where your audience can elicit those particular bits of information that they need. So a little quote for you, which I love, and I think this is so important. I love a good story, as I mentioned before. Stories work. Stories do so much, and we'll get into that in a minute. So, oh yeah, this is a D&D game I'm playing with Jamie Walker. Right, doesn't matter. So, this was mentioned yesterday by Justine in a fantastic talk from Asmahawk. Ethos, logos, and pathos. Now, the principle, as I understand it, that Aristotle had defined, was that if you touch on these three things during any talk, it should be more engaging. And the way that I've interpreted them is ethos is simply your ethos, the way you do things, what motivates you, how you operate, your MO, if you will. Your logos is basically logic. It is facts. It's empirical argument. So it might be an amazing statistic. And pathos is how the audience feels about it, what their reaction to things are, and what drives them. So when you start your talk, you could start off with, this is the way we do things. This is what drives us. This is how we want to change the world. Or, guess what percentage of this happened last year? Or, this is how many of these games have worked, and so on. The pathos might be, how do you feel about this? What's your reaction to this particular thing? How does it make you feel? And if you kick off with any one of those, that should work. But if you involve all three of them, it can be very, very effective. Now, if you are pitching a game, and I think it could be fair to say that the person investing is possibly maybe just as interested in the team, or maybe more interested in the team than the idea itself. It could be that you meet someone who thinks, well, actually, not sure about the game, but I love the team. No offense, but would you like to make something else or work on this? Or they say, no, thank you. Great talking to you, but they've still kept you in their minds, and then they approach you later on. The pivotal thing in Dragon's Den when I used to watch it was, and now they've asked questions about this person. Deborah Meaden thinks they're an idiot. Peter Jones thinks the chocolate shower gel is brilliant. I don't know. But the point is they talk to that person and go, right, what are you about? And the reason, obviously, that they do that, much like with an interview, is because they want to find out, what's it going to be like working with you? This may be a fantastic game, but what are you like? How do you operate? Are you going to turn up? Are you bothered to be involved with this thing? So, and I also really like describing of characters. So I love a good team. I love character classes. And I really like it when you talk about the team and you explain how they all interact with each other and how they are the heroes of your particular project. Now, I I mentioned I like good stories. I imagine some of you are familiar with the hero's journey, and definitely take a picture of that. The hero's journey is this wonderful archetype, and just in case you're not familiar with it, the ordinary person in an ordinary world hates their life. It's very boring. They want to do amazing things. And one day they leave after being asked to go on this amazing journey, and they fall in love, and they meet a rogue character, and they learn to fight with a sword, and they fight the evil Dark Lord, and they overcome ever-increasing risks, and right at the end, they risk everything, and they defeat the evil Dark Lord with their friends, save the world, and they return home, typically geographically to the same place, utterly transformed. Wonderful. As a species, we love that. There and back again. All the Bond movies, basically, be a wolf. It's like, I'm going to travel to a distant place, kill the hideous deformed creature, and come back again. Hooray. Now, that's great, and that does appeal to us on a very fundamental level, but I hear you say, well, that's all very well, but how do I incorporate that principle into my talk on a Tuesday about how to pitch my game? So the fundamentals, I think, if you boil it down, are here was a person, some people, which could be your players, it could be your team. They had a problem. They wanted a thing. There was a barrier. This is how they overcame it. The TED Talks follow a very good structure, very common one, which is, I encountered a terrible problem. I overcame it. I'm stronger now. Here's what I learned. So there are ways of incorporating that. And I find this a lot where people they might claim value. So you might say, we are brilliant problem solvers. We're amazing collaborators. We're very creative. That's great. That may be true, and that may be a sincere claim, but a story that illustrates that is great. I know someone from a games company who was the COO, and they were asked by a new interviewee, what's the culture? And they could have given them the 3 funky adjectives of integrity, honesty, and I don't know, the things that have come out of a very expensive meeting at some point. Or they could do what they did, which was much better, which was to say, well, last Friday we did this party. We had this jolly, we did this thing. And so it showed those things, and then it allows the audience to infer, okay, yeah, they're a fun company, or they're inclusive, or those positive things, rather than just claiming it outright. Story again is it's very easy to remember, which is great, and that's the thing I've just talked about for me. So when you get to the end, just cut off, right? Just nice sum up. Here are the key points. Here's where you could go to learn more. Thank you. That's it. I've seen plenty of people give talks and presentations where it's gone well, right? They've done a great job, and then they sabotage it beautifully by not stopping talking, and their voice just gets higher and higher. So they say, okay, good. So I think that's it. I think we're good. I think that's everything. I think it's our time. I think that's good. I think that's everything. I think that's all I wanted to say. Okay, I think we're good. I think this is it. And I'm sitting there going, just stop talking, right? You've done it. You've done a good job. Just finished. Boom, thank you, and gone. That's it. Having that sense, that awareness of, I think I'm going to stop talking now, is a very good one. So please, pay attention to that when that happens. This is very nice. That idea of explaining something to somebody else, if you want to understand a subject, try teaching it. Keep it simple, again, just very important. So the old visuals then. Excellent. With that process that I described before, you may realize that you don't need to show anything. Now, I appreciate that has blown your minds, but it's a way that you could save yourself a lot of effort. Now, if you are pitching a game, obviously, and I was very pleased with that title, by the way. I had a good chuckle, about 10 minutes when I wrote that, so I think that's worth noting. The slides are not the thing. Sometimes, people will come with a picture presentation, and they've got it. It's on their laptop, it's on their memory stick. I've got my thing, and I think you haven't. That isn't the main thing. It's an idea that you want to get into people's heads. It's a concept. It's something you want to persuade them of. It might be a set of values. It's a plan. You might not need visuals. Now, having said that, if you've got playable code, put it in their hands, right? It's ready to go. Have you got something I can play now? Yes, play that. That's it, done. You can talk about everything else beyond that. If, however, it doesn't exist yet, then it's working out how to get the idea into their heads. And I suggest maybe not having slides at all, because it could be that your audience is smart enough and you're smart enough to simply use words to convince them of the thing. It also avoids any possible technical shenanigans. Yesterday, obviously, there was a point where slides stopped working, and I saw Sarah Brent of Media Molecule do a great job. She kept going, questions, kept going, and kept us engaged. That's really important. When that tech fails, what a brilliant way to communicate that you are a great problem solver and you're creative and you know your stuff, crucially. That fails and you go, right, that's broken, let me show you something else. I've seen people give great talks where the slides broke and then they used a whiteboard. And arguably they created something that was almost sort of more engaging and more lovely, because they were able to demonstrate their level of knowledge. They were able to ask the audience questions and then write those down. And they created something that was just a bit more fluid and a bit more engaging. You can imagine any number of technical problems that can happen with slides. And I remember years ago coming to my first develop, and I was upstairs, and somebody hadn't brought the right adapter for their laptop. And so there's me and, I don't know, sort of 50, 80 other people. And this person decided that they would try and fix it, right? So, and they were this close to fixing it for 15 minutes. So we're all sitting there going, oh, do you know the stuff or not? And also, these slides had better be amazing. They weren't. So then it's frustrating. And I like to sort of do things differently to everyone else if I can. If everyone's using slides and you don't, there's something slightly magical about that. I mean, Sarah's talk yesterday was amazing, but there was something magnetic when she was walking around and talking, and there was nothing there. So if you can, starting something off with just that background, just the logo, after the first minute, people realize, oh, right, so there's nothing happening there. It's you. You should be the medium for the talk. The slides are backing you up. So consider having none and then introducing them when you need them, or having a demo when you need them. Also, video doesn't work. I'm just going to say that now. There's a number of times I've seen it doesn't work. I remember doing a thing at BAFTA Games Crew years ago, and somebody pitched a game, and they blew my mind. They had this video, right, a silent video, running of gameplay, right? It was on a massive screen, high resolution, looked great, and they were talking over the top of it, which worked brilliantly. It was a GIF. I was like, oh, that's it, right? So there's a bulletproof video. Don't just think of GIFs as a horrible low-resolution loop. It can be something that's actually quite complex and really works, but way more reliable. And also, as I said, talking over a video can be really good, because there's a problem where you can show a video, it's really good, and they're loving it, and then there's sort of jarring silence when it ends, and they think, oh, it's you again. We want more video. So if you've got video and you're talking over the top of it, that can be a nicer way of getting across information in two streams. So, have I mentioned that? Keep it simple. I didn't plan to do this, by the way, but I've realized I can block this part of the screen. It doesn't matter whatsoever. So, very pleased. So getting into the room beforehand is really important, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So Simon Smith gets a shout. Simon Smith from Team 17, because it was last week on Twitter, he posted a really good long sort of survival guide to come into develop, and it was basic things, including remember to drink water, which is good. No, but it was good, and importantly, eat before you go out to a party, things like that. But it was really good, and I loved it. But one of the things, does anyone remember? Let's see how attentive you were. Does anyone remember what he said about pitching and slides? Yes. The person not to show slides. Top of the class. Fantastic. Good to see you again. So yeah, if you've got a 30-minute slot, don't spend 25 minutes going through your slides. We want to meet you, find out what you're about, make a connection with you. Who would have thought that would work? One of the key things actually from Justine's talk was trust, having that authenticity and getting that. In a way, your objective is to gain someone else's trust. Don't think about necessarily, it is getting across what a brilliant idea it is, but it's making that connection, that rapport. So, for example, coming to this, I'm self-employed, and months ago, I'm thinking, right, I've got to go there and get work and make connections, and I'll come back and I've got business cards. It's a bit old-fashioned, but I've got business cards. I'll make connections. And then a few days before I get here, and I think, do you know what? How about I have some fun, right? How about I just talk to people, chat, see what happens? Ultimately, apart from liberating me from this ridiculous, horrible pressure, I'll probably do a better job at making connections and getting business anyway. But it's nice to just have that idea of just going and chatting and talking to people and talking about what you're about and listening and being interested in them. So, which leads me to this. Now, that's a Steve Martin quote, which I really like. So that particularly is, I think, it's sort of aimed at young stand-up comics who are moaning that they're not getting success. It's like, just be good and it'll come. Don't complain that people aren't paying attention. So this is me. Oh yeah, you can't really see it probably. This is at Games Eden, which is a games jam in Cambridge. Okay, how do you make a great first impression? That's a direct question. I've done it again. I know, it's just you thought this would be like watching TV, but it's not. I can see you and everything. Right, yes. Yeah, smart. It's amazing. Smile, eye contact, and then just say something, right? I've seen people mess up that very first moment where they are maybe, so you may have seen me when right at the beginning I was frantically like trying to get this ready because I want to be here and ready to present to you on time. In that first moment when, let's say in person, you appear, if you are fretting over the tech, you're not looking at those people. And I know that just in that first 10 seconds, I've seen it where audiences are just going, they're on their phone already, right? You want to engage. As soon as people think, right, oh, it's you, you're the person who's speaking, look at them and smile. So many times people forget to smile. Who'd have thought? It's a basic way of sort of oiling the wheels of social interaction. It can be easy to think, bless you, it can be easy to think, showtime, I've got to be professional, game-faced. I've got to impress people. But if you smile and are relatable, then it does a much better job. So in that first moment, in person, eye contact, smile, something conversational. Online, it's another matter. Don't fall into the trap of doing what I used to do, which is to say, well, just wait until everyone gets here. Yeah, that's just honestly, I've had some of the best conversations about very trivial things. I think it was Lauren Kay at Women in Games, I think it was beginning of last year, was chairing a panel online, and there's loads of tracks, there's lots going on. And for the first 5 minutes, they talked about what people were drinking, and they covered hot chocolates, warm mineral water, and and I was sitting there going, this is weird, it's great, but it's like, where's it going? And then exactly 5 past, the talk started. And it was just this lovely segue. So it meant as people joined, there was a conversation happening. So online, even if you're only meeting a handful of people, start talking. Where are you? What's the weather like? Come on, that's a classic, right? We love that. So I talk about the weather all day. It's so humid, isn't it? Just anything about, and also you're finding out where people are. Like I've been caught out with that a few times as well, where I go, oh yeah, so yeah, where are you? And I'm in Singapore. All right, and it's middle of the night. So asking someone about what's happening, and I like the immediate and the relatable, and I'm looking at this going, God, my shoes on the stage are made of the same material. Look at this, it's great. Like you can see the outline. Okay, I just like, and also I demand mirrors. Wherever I go, I want as many mirrors on the wall as possible because I'm a massive narcissist. Oh, hooray, look, it's me again. Great, and there's you, and like this room looks massive, and a chandelier. Like if there's no chandelier, no talk. It's as simple as that. So that first moment, I think, can set up what I call a positive feedback loop, where people think, okay, you seem happy, therefore, yeah, you probably know what you're talking about. This will be okay, this will be good, right? And we've decided, and there's a little bit of trust there. If, however, it's the floundering with technology, which shouldn't happen if you've researched it and made sure that you're ready and prepared correctly. If it's that sort of flounder, then we might think, yeah, this might be rubbish, even if you've got something amazing to show. So working on that, I think, is really important. I think being present is underestimated. What I find with a lot of people I coach is that they're worrying about what's the next bit, like what's coming next, and so they don't pay attention to what's happening right now. And it's just noticing. It's just seeing what's going on, seeing what's happening, and if it's online, ask someone about what's happening, in the background or what their cat's doing. I think that's funny. I think to be interesting, it's probably a good idea to be interested in other people, and the best communication sometimes can be listening. Breakthrough. Talk to people and ask them about them and find out what it is that makes them tick, why they're there, what they're doing. Be interested in them. Now, I mentioned I did stand-up comedy a while ago. I gave it up years ago. And sometimes that funny bit can be really good, right? That can be, one of the highlights can be really memorable. But for goodness sake, please, I strongly advocate, do not do a joke. Don't do a line. I did consider the Walter White thing beforehand, but even so, I've had more fun, just reacting to things as they happen. I think there's something wonderful about reacting to something going wrong in the moment, puncturing that tension and getting a laugh. So Tony Gowland told me that years ago, he did a talk in front of a load of game devs, and he felt he wasn't really engaging them. He wasn't sure it was working. And then the low battery warning on his laptop came up on the screen behind him, and they loved that. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. Other people's misfortune, it's always funny. Right? But from that point on, he was completely relatable, which was brilliant. And that's what stories will do for you. They'll make you relatable. So just noticing, what's happening and having some fun with it. Don't try and do a gag. It's too obvious an offering. If it goes wrong, it will have a very clear fail or success state. Whereas just talking about what's happening in the moment, I find is much better. Okay, so being your authentic self. You may have been told at some point, hey, just be yourself. And like me, you probably thought, I'd rather not. Why would you want to do that? But authenticity, I find, can be really, really powerful. This is a wonderful quote. And I think if you're going to be memorable, then being yourself is really, really important. But it comes at a... this is at Raspberry Pi in Cambridge. My face is so big. I'm not quite sure. I'll just have to block it. Okay, so this first step then is a tricky one, and this is something that I think I struggle with on a daily basis, is accepting the flaws, and it's hard. If you're going to be authentic, and authenticity is interesting, or it makes you interesting, I should say. Accepting everything is really important. So this means like looking at all the things that you're unhappy with about yourself, right? Just laying them out, maybe even writing them out, going, right, this is me, this is what I'm about. But also celebrating those strengths as well. I find something that a lot of British people really struggle with is to say, I'm good at this. Like it just feels horribly uncomfortable. Was for an American audience, they'd be, yes, I'm good at this, because they can back it up and it's fine. And it's genuine, it's authentic. So get used to saying that, because, I'm good at this, I struggle with this, and even better, declare it. If you can tell people, actually, I have a problem with this, or, I find this a challenge, or I struggle with this, then it's out there. If you feel you've got that thing that you don't want people to find out about, if it's a secret, then it lends it even greater weight and significance. They mustn't find out, and it becomes too much of a pressure. Whereas if you say halfway through a pitch, by the way, I struggle with this is tricky, it's out there, it's done. And if things are going really well in a pitch or an interview, that person might be thinking, well, this is great, but there's something, there's got to be a catch. So if you declare it, then it gives a balance, and they think, okay, so now we know everything. So I think accepting yourself is a really big deal, and what you say to yourself is important as well. Being different, being unique, that's what we want. So, I'll show you this thing. So ages ago, when I realized I've disappeared, I've realized you can't see me. Stealth mode is on. So I did this, I made this case. I honestly didn't think I was going to tell anyone about this. So this is a Hilti toolbox that I've adapted. And part of me is thinking, that's stupid. Like, you're not Tony Stark, get over it. But I just want to do something different. And by the way, so I got myself an immaculate red t-shirt, and I thought, I've got this, here we go, red t-shirt. I walk in, hey guys, I'm now one of the crew. So that didn't work. But I think just trying to be, like I said, I want to do things different to everyone else. If you can be memorable, that's good. If there's a whole bunch of people pitching and you've got something that's different and original, that's really powerful. having fun is a very powerful objective. So with stand-up, I remember what me and the comics used to say to each other is, you wouldn't say break a leg. You might say have a good one, but you'd say have fun. And I think that can be a really good objective, just to say, right, I'm going to go and talk to these people. How about I just go in there with the objective of enjoying myself? That will give you that different edge. So when you walk in, you're smiling, you're happy, you're talking to them because you're just, if that's the goal, it's like, I've seen it on, TV shows where there's a wedding and someone says, oh, I wanted it to be perfect. And I'm thinking, that's a horrifically unrealistic objective for a wedding, right? It can't be perfect, that's stupid. Well, how about aiming for it to be wonderful, right? Yeah, it'll be wonderful because a wedding by its very nature is chaos. So for a pitch, how about going in there with, we'll just have some fun with it. That's what they'll remember. Right, so adapting is very important. Now, very simply, so you could argue there's no strategy against Mike Tyson that would work, but I like the idea that reality will sit you down. So, for example, yesterday, there were people thinking, right, I've got this. The electricity has failed, right? I've not anticipated this. You've got to go with it. Here's a gif of me walking in the countryside. So, just no reason. So, very simply, when things go wrong, you've got to go with it. And there's a very simple way of adapting this, and that's to become one of the universe. So that's it. Next slide. Right. So, accepting the ridiculousness of the situation. This thing has broken. There's been a terrible question, a really tricky question. Something will happen. It could be the way that you feel. It could be that you've followed all of these things I've talked to you about. You've got great material, you've accepted yourself, and then at a critical moment, your subconscious goes, panic, who am I? What's my name? What are we doing? Those things will happen, and it's just accepting that. And taking a moment, having a sip of water, resetting is the way forward. I've seen people really crumble in different situations, say, right, I can't do this. And I've always jumped up and go, no, keep going, take a moment, make sure you finish it off. And generally that works. So when those things happen, when something unexpected happens, just going with it is really important. So final thing, just simply showing confidence and controlling your nerves. Easy, right? Now, so this is the Cumberbatch version, particularly good one. He says it to Lestrade, who he's normally humiliating. But I really like that. And this is the key thing, is accepting that fear is part of the process. Now, Dan Griliopoulos took this picture just over there in 2017 when it was a banquet table thing. Look at my stupid face. I'm so happy. What I love about this photo is it was candid. And so I can see I'm having a great time. Someone said something funny. I'm about to say something funny. I'm having a good time. But I'm just sort of being myself. So, the fear. It's irrational. Fight, flight, freeze. There's this panic, the instinctive reaction. Your body is saying, right, saber-toothed tiger, whereas in fact it's a CEO, right? You've got to try and counter that. And what I would say is you tell yourself the truths, the logic. So the fear is panic and chaos. Confidence comes from programming yourself with the good stuff, with the facts, with the truths. And those should be, I know my stuff. I've put in the work. I've prepared. I've rehearsed. And then the other really positive ones are, they want me to do well. They're on my side. I'm going to talk for X amount of time, then answer some questions. If I don't know the answer to a question, it doesn't matter. That's it. Those are the truths. It's just programming yourself. The trouble with that fear reaction is it reacts quicker than any other part of your mind. But you're not in physical danger, right? You are physically safe. You might be a bit warm, but you're going to be okay. Now, I like a good speaking ritual, and that can be wearing particular clothes. It can be reminding myself of how talks have gone before. The great TED talk, Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are by Amy Cuddy is brilliant. She talks about the programming yourself with physical action. So the Wonder Woman pose, being particularly strong. This is before you give a talk, not during, although it feels great. But that physical act, there's something really powerful about stepping into that role and walking out and thinking like, are they buying this? Is this working? And If they are, that's great. The secret is you only need apparent confidence, okay? You could be nervous every single time, but if the audience buys it and thinks, oh yeah, you seem to know what you're doing, that's good, then you've won, and that's the clever trick. A great neuro-linguistic programming technique, by the way, is to imagine a memory, to recall a memory when you felt really confident, really happy and relaxed, and to press your thumbnails into your fingertips. And then when you need that emotion later on, you do that, and it's something you can sort of easily hide. And it recalls that sense of calm, which is really handy. Right, so for God's sake, slow down. That was a note for me and for everyone. Generally, I find a lot of speakers will talk too fast. It may be your natural style, but it can convey nerves. So throw in pauses, slow down. That can be really powerful. Right, there's a caveat for this. Sorry, this is not, like, obviously people care, but I have found this is a really useful little mantra when I'm feeling anxious about something, which is every 10 minutes, which is, it's fine, nobody cares, nobody cares. In this moment, it's not that important, right? For you, yes, this thing is incredibly important, but the people you're speaking to, yes, they're engaged and enjoying it, but they're also going, oh, what's for lunch, right? It's not, quite as significant as you might think. So here are the things, and I'm going to go through them. So find out about your audience. Find out what makes them tick. What are they after? What do they need? What's the pain point? Tell a story. Talk about your team. Talk about all the amazing. Yes, now you can take a picture. Yeah, find out about all of them. Keep slides to a minimum. And beyond that, visuals, I've mentioned putting code into someone's hand. If you've got a playable thing, great, but you might not need any slides whatsoever. Talk to your audience, find out about them, be interested in them, notice what's happening. If you think they're flagging halfway through, for goodness sake, say, is this okay? Does this make sense? Is this working for you? Check in with them. It doesn't have to be a need for approval, but it's just making sure that everything's working okay. Whoa, did not mean to do that. Straight back, always in control. Oh, thank God. Logitech ClickMaster 5000 helps you just when you need it. So it's not called that, but wouldn't it be great if it was? So noticing what's happening, accepting who you are is crucial, good stuff and bad. Accept that events will happen. This is how the world works, sorry. Things will go wrong, and it's fine when they do. And to be honest, even if it's dreadful, that'll make a great story to tell in the future. And finally, remember the good stuff. Remind yourself of the facts. I was doing that beforehand. So I was in here 2 hours ago, and my heart was racing, right? I don't mind telling you that. And I'm just going, you've done this before. It'll probably be okay, right? That's all I had. And thank you all for coming, because it's amazing to see such a full room. So finally, very important thing, this thing that I said. So research your subject. Make sure you know absolutely everything about that game, about that concept, and then rehearse and make sure you've got something that's thoroughly replaced. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Right, I believe we have 5 minutes for questions. Is that correct? 2 minutes for questions. That is wrong. Okay, yes. Oh, I know you. Hi. Hello, Ben. How you doing? Brilliant, love it. This sounds like a caveat.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, go on.
So you're talking very much about doing a single talk or presentation, and the only thing I would sort of add from having done many presentations is to take the opportunity to try and do them as many times as you can.
Oh yeah.
So the whatever the last slide was with the whatever confidence equals.
Yes.
Is also experience.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, so preparation being repeated practice and experience. Good, thank you. Yes, that's the final message, is go out there and do it. Like, none of this means anything until you put it into practice.
And I'd just add, I've had training from Jon, and it's amazing, and I'd recommend everyone else to do it.
Thank you. Oh, you can come again. Yeah, brilliant. Right, oh yeah, the man right at the back there. Oh, you're going the long way around. That's crazy. Why couldn't you come further forward? Honestly, just meet him halfway. Literally meet him halfway.
Hello. Just a quick question. So I think you touched it briefly near the end, but if you're in a situation where you're pitching and they're just not vibing with it, you don't think it's going to happen, nothing's like gone wrong in the pitch, but you just don't think they're connecting with it. Where do you go from there? Is there anything you do during that pitch?
Well, there's the checking in. There's making sure. It's just seeing, is this okay? Is this working? But also, right, yeah, what do you think? Just being completely open about it. You know, if they're a serious investor, they're just going to be open about it. It's business. You know, it's nothing personal. Just fine. If they say, yeah, look, this is broken. You didn't do this thing. Excuse me. Then learn from that and move on. You know, it's all progress.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers. I think we've got about. That's it. Okay, good. Right. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. Ooh. Hello, sir. How you doing? Yeah, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming.
See you again,
Thank
Jon.
you.